One of the biggest events on the IMSA schedule is the 12 Hours of Sebring. We'll have all the action from yesterday's race. Two of the leading competitors in that race were GTP driver Davy Jones and Bryce Cobb in GTO. We'll talk with them both by satellite. And Chuck Bown is the reigning Busch Grand National champion, and he'll join us in our studio a little later on. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. This is TNN Motorsports Magazine Afternoon Edition for Sunday, March 17, 1991. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pat Patterson. There was other racing this weekend besides the IMSA 12 Hours of Sebring. We'll have a report on that race later on in our show. The ARCA cars had a big event in Atlanta, and here with our report on that race is Gary Michaels.
Greg Trammell, who works in Bill Elliott's engine room in Dawsonville, Georgia, got the thrill of his life when he started on the pole in one of the Melling Winston Cup Thunderbirds. On the outside of the front row was Mike Wallace in a Dale Earnhardt-owned Chevrolet. Bill Venturini moved up from his fourth starting spot to take the lead on the second lap. Charging Charlie Glotzback lived up to his nickname when he gave the leader a bit of the chrome horn. A few laps later, the Black 28 took over the top spot and appeared to have the race under control. Blown engines seemed to be the order of the day. Venturini's fine run ended when his engine let go on lap 81. Except for pit stops, Glotzback had held on to the lead for most of the afternoon. But when the hood goes up, it usually signals big trouble for a driver. Charging Charlie's race ended a few laps later when the engine in his Chevrolet failed. With Glotzback out, Ken Reagan inherited the front position, but not for long. The inexperienced Trammell had overcome some mid-race mistakes, and he drove like his boss to take the lead again on lap 177. Trammell took the checkered flag ahead of Reagan for his first ARCA victory and an even bigger thrill.
It was a struggle. Everything there was nothing going our way. It just seemed like the crew did fine. I just kept making all the mistakes. I just kept driving hard, and we kept making adjustments on the car until everything came together.
Finishing behind Trammell and Reagan were Bobby Boucher, Jerry Hill, and Cecil Eunice. This is Gary Michaels reporting for TNN Motorsports Magazine.
And the World of Outlaws were in Chico, California last night. Brett Kading drove a great race, coming from 13th to win. Keith Kaufman finished second with Dave Blaney third. Johnny Herrera finished fourth, and Joe Gertie was fifth. Steve Kinzer flipped in the hot laps and came back to finish the feature in the 10th spot. Jean-Michel Bale almost crashed on the third lap of the AMA Camel Supercross race in Phoenix Saturday night, and then came charging back through the field to claim his fourth victory of the year. Bale passed Honda teammate Jeff Stanton in the waning laps. Stanton held on for second, with Jeff Ward third. Mike Fisher finished fourth, and Mike Ketarowski finished fifth. Down under in Australia, the kart IndyCar season opener under a cloud of controversy. FISA, the international race sanctioning body, had threatened kart drivers with some form of punishment if they ran the event. The race in Surfers Paradise did run, with John Andretti getting the street course victory. Finishing behind him were Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, and Danny Sullivan. Scott Pruitt was fifth. We'll have highlights from Australia on the morning edition of TNN Motorsports Magazine next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Jaguar driver Davy Jones is known as one of the stars of the IMSA GTP racing series, but he had a serious incident last Thursday at Sebring. Earlier today, we talked with him via satellite, and we asked, first of all, Davy, health-wise, are you okay? And you had a pretty bad crash down in there.
It's fine. You know, fortunately, I'm in a very safe race car built by Tom Walkinshaw Racing, and you know, I'm able to just get therapy, get over the bruises and the aches, and you know, just carry the momentum straight on through the weekend. So it wasn't really a problem, other than it reduced our odds going into the race.
Well, Davey, I know you had great expectations down at Sebring, coming off a win in West Palm Beach, and that team progressing very nicely the early stage of this season. You know, if it had not been for going to the third car, did you feel like you were going to be competitive at Sebring?
Well, the V12 normally aspirated Jaguar has always been our endurance race car, from winning the 24 Hours of Daytona to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And we feel that Sebring is a race that you need a lot of luck on your side, and you just want to finish in the points. So to bring the turbo cars there and to really compete against the Porsches and the Nissans and the Toyotas, we don't really have the factor of whether they can go the distance where we do for the V12. That's all behind us now, the 24 Hours Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the remainder of the Camel GT series is just short one driver, 2-hour sprint races, which will use the V6 twin turbo.
As far as preparations, Davey, for the West Palm Beach, for the Miami race that's coming up, how much testing will you do to get ready for that event?
Before Miami, we have some new developments done to the turbo car, which we're just waiting to finish up before going into Miami, and we hope to do a test day or two before then. But both Raul Boesel and myself and the whole Bud Light team are working as hard as possible to get both cars equally prepared and competitive for Miami.
All right, as far as the team itself, Davey, I know that this year to take a good run at the championship, you've got to feel as if you've got the kind of cohesiveness, if you will, amongst the team to make that happen. Are you comfortable with that right now?
Yes, I think this is going into my 4th year with Tom Walkinshaw Racing, and the team really, it's going into their 4th year as well in the Camel GTP series. I think the whole momentum, what we've learned from the past years is really going to help us tremendously this year. The nice thing about it is we've got our long endurance races behind us. We're there in the top 5 in the points positions, and it's really down to just concentrating and focusing on the races on the remainder of the seasons with the car that we really want to develop to carry us to the championship, and that's the V6 twin turbo.
All right, that was Davy Jones down in Sebring, Florida. Before we go to break, we're going to give you the results of last week's viewer opinion question, which apparently stirred up a lot of interest. We asked, does the Formula One Championship accurately reflect who is the best driver in the world? In one of our biggest responses ever, you said no by an overwhelming margin of 81% to 19%. We'll have a new viewer opinion question later in our show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The surefire performance of AC Delco. We don't just race, we win.
2, 3.
Davey Allison believes. Mario and Michael Andretti believe. Don Prudhomme believes. You get out of a car what you put into it.
Yeah.
George 117 in pursuit of request additional backup. You copy? 117. Sam 216, we copy. Approaching 69 on the block. Let's get a roadblock.
More police cars throughout America come on Goodyear Eagle radials than any other brand of tires. Why? Because they want it that way.
Attention all units.
Goodyear Eagles. The authorities know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Honda has been named #1 in import owner loyalty for the 14th year in a row, which means year after year, more people buy Honda after Honda. Why? Because you get what you pay for.
Welcome back, everybody. The 12 Hours of Sebring is second only to Daytona in the importance to IMSA road racers, and it's the second longest race on the schedule. It was first run on the old airport course way back in 1952. Gary Michaels has our report on yesterday's 39th running of this classic event.
Jeff Brabham in a Nissan started on the pole with Bernd Schneider outside of him in a Porsche. Schneider and teammate John Winter diced for the lead during the early laps. But the key to this classic race is survival. The Porsche team suffered all kinds of mechanical ills in the first 6 hours, from a broken shifter to burned out brakes to electrical woes. And the Nissans of Brabham and Chip Robinson took over the top spots. Jeff was driving the lead Nissan when torrential rain swept over the former World War II bomber base at the halfway mark, and the elder Brabham took a trip into the Florida boondocks. He returned to the track in second place. The Nissans were still out in front in the final hour when Derek Daly had to pit the lead car to replace the rear wing after the car jumped out of gear and he spun off the course. The 83 Nissan went down the lap. The disappointment the team felt did not last long, however. Robinson was driving the new lead car when near constant rain got to the ignition system, and the 84 Nissan stalled and had to be pushed to the pits. Jeff Brabham was behind the wheel when the number 83 Nissan crossed the finish line to take the rain-soaked victory.
Well, the car was running great at the beginning of the race. We felt we had everyone covered, really. I mean, my car was really beautiful, and you know, it was just a matter of hanging in there and having no problems. And we basically stayed out of trouble till right towards the end of the race, and then Chip had his problem. We ended up winning, and it was really great. The Nissan ran great. The team did a fantastic job today, and it was really neat to do my first race with Gary, my brother, and we ended up winning it, you know.
Robinson's Nissan was restarted and survived for a second-place finish. Third and fourth were the Porsche teams, headed by Bob Wallach and Winter. Fifth was the lone Jaguar in the field that had 4 drivers after Davy Jones had crashed the team's second car in practice. This is Gary Michaels reporting for TNN Motorsports Magazine.
Bryce Cobb drove a Mazda GTO car to the 12th place overall finish at Sebring. We also talked with him earlier today by satellite, and we asked Bryce. He was leading at the halfway point, and he ended up posting a 3rd place finish in class, but that was not the way he really wanted to see the race end.
No, after the Daytona debut for myself in the Exxon Supreme Series for Mazda, we'd found some difficulties in the endurance aspects of the car. We made many changes for the race, and it looked like they were working well, as we posted some times in the race that were actually faster than my qualifying time. Unfortunately, sometimes when you come into the pits to do specific service items, they don't pan out, and you get caught in the pits and lose some of the lead, and that more or less is what stopped us from winning the race.
Well, Bryce, the weather was such a factor down there. You know, tell me a little bit about it from the standpoint of how it affected you and your drive, and also, you know, do you think it really hurt the overall performance of the car itself? Did we not see what we should have seen from that vehicle?
No, I don't really think so. Some of what we've done to the Mazda for the Exxon Supreme Series was to make it a bit more drivable in the long races. Certain things, aspects about the motor are very hard on the drivetrain, so we did some things that helped it in the rain, actually, as a sidelight to what we've done. In the rain or the dry, the car was very fast. Part of the rain that really caught us out was that we lost the wiper. Luckily, I wasn't driving the car when that happened. I got in the car after John Osteen tried to soldier on through the rain at night with no wiper. Bless his heart, I can't imagine doing it for 1 lap, much less half of an hour.
As far as working with the fogging, I understand that the fogging inside the car was a big problem for a lot of the guys.
It can be. The difference between a prototype and the GTO cars, of course, is that the engine's in the front, and anytime you pull into the pits, the heat from the engine alone causes the inside of the window to fog up. And we have a defroster, but it doesn't have a fan. It's not force-fed. So as you sit in the pits and service the car, windscreen's fogging up on the inside, and then you can't get it to clear up until you drive out on the racetrack. That in itself is different, and you have to get used to that. You know, even a heated windscreen like you might find in a prototype, it wouldn't do anything with the wet and dampness we get from the GTO car. And that's the biggest problem we have.
You were second down in West Palm Beach, and then also a 3rd here at Sebring. You go on to Miami. What's the situation as far as your team for this year? Do you feel comfortable with the guys? Do you feel like Mazda's got a run at a championship this year?
Yeah, without question. We came into this thing wanting to win the Exxon Supreme Series. I know that Pete's got the same goals than I, which is one of the reasons I was wanting to join the team. He wants it as bad as I do for Mazda. We know that Ford and Nissan are coming out with 2 new turbo cars for the remainder of the year, certainly from Miami on. But we have a few more tricks up our sleeves also for our car. We don't intend to let the GTO Championship just slide by because of our long-term goals with Mazda.
All right, that was Bryce Cobb a little earlier today in Sebring. In past years in sprint races, which will make up the balance of this year's IMSA schedule, top drivers would sometimes not start the car in which they qualified. The reason for that was in case the car broke, they could climb into another machine and still score points. This year, they must race the car they qualified no matter what. We want your opinion on this question. Do you agree that a Camel GT driver should be able to score points only in the car in which he qualified? To voice your opinion, you can call us at 1-900-860-2243 using a touch-tone phone. That's 1-900-860-2243. Calls are 95 cents, and children under 18, please get your parents' permission before dialing. We'll be right back.
In our continuing search for the best of everything, our special segment today applies to all motorists. Straining to see through a rain-soaked windshield is no fun and can be unsafe, but there is a solution. It's called Rain-X, the invisible windshield wiper. It dramatically improves wet weather visibility. After my first application, I was a true believer. Water never slid off a duck's back quite so easily. If you want true performance from a product, go out and get your Rain-X today.
Available at Pep Boys.
Fact. The full-size Ford pickup has more repeat buyers than any other pickup. Fact. The full-size Ford pickup sales lead over Chevy is wider than last year. Fact. Our most popular model is priced $600 less than a comparably equipped Chevy. Call it leadership, call it winning, call it anything you want. The simple fact is, Ford is #1. Save now during Leadership Month at your Ford dealer.
Hello everybody, I'm Bill Dance. You know there's nothing better than just to sit back and enjoy a peaceful day on the water. It's easy to take water for granted too, but if pollution and waste continue to take a toll on our waterways, we may just find ourselves high and dry. Please join me in TNN's conservation effort, Pure Water, Pure Country, so we can keep fishing and more importantly, our children and their children can experience the same.
Share the pride, America, Monday, as Ralph Emery welcomes the women and men of the United States Military Services to a special night on Nashville Now, featuring Barbara Mandrell, Donna Fargo, Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin Brothers, Helen Cornelius, and the Forrester Sisters. It's a heartfelt salute to honor our armed forces on Nashville Now. Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central on TNN, the Nashville Network.
Yes, sir, ready, I am ready for the storm. Yes,
Saturday,
sir, ready,
Kathy Mattea and Scotland's Doogie McLean star on The American Music Shop. Then on the Texas Connection, it's mandolinist Paul Glass. The American Music Shop and the Texas Connection. Saturday starting at 10 Eastern on TNN, the Nashville Network.
And welcome back, everybody. The luck of the Irish seemed to bypass Hampton, Georgia today as the Winston Cup event at Atlanta Motor Speedway was in the early laps when it was postponed by rain. It will restart tomorrow, Monday morning at 11 a.m. Top 5 drivers when the race was called was Sterling Marlin in the lead. Alan Kowicki was second. Ken Schrader was third. Ernie Irvin was fourth. And Mark Martin, that's the top 5 cars. Now, they will be impounded tonight and will only be allowed to work and check the air in the tires tomorrow morning. The Atlanta Motor Speedway is under new ownership, and they have something else on their minds. Like any promoters, they would like to get as much publicity as they can. Pretty soon, a lot of media attention in Atlanta will be focused on this year's Olympics, which will be held there and are coming up in 1996. Here with a report on how the Speedway plans to get their fair share of that spotlight in 1996 is Ralph Shaheen.
This past fall, Bruton Smith, the owner of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, added the newly named Atlanta Motor Speedway to his stable of racetracks. At the same time, the city of Atlanta was granted the 1996 Summer Olympics. The Olympics are already attracting a lot of local media attention. But how important is racing to Atlanta?
From time to time, we take readership surveys, and NASCAR scores pretty high. You know, it doesn't approach college football or anything like that, but it's right up there. As far as other auto racing, you know, there is some degree of popularity, and it's tough to please the IMSA folks, I think, as much as we like, but we kind of see ourselves as a hotbed of NASCAR racing.
The Speedway, however, welcomes the challenges the Olympics will bring.
We need to let the people in Atlanta know that Atlanta Motor Speedway is available for hospitality with the Olympics, maybe an alternate training site, and who knows, after the dust settles with so many proposals being involved with the Olympic Committee about building new facilities, maybe they'll want to do something on our property. So we need to be a player and not just an observer, and that's what we're going to be.
Media coverage is a key element to any racetrack's ability to grow. With motorsports already struggling for column space against regular stick and ball sports, one has to wonder how story space will be allocated.
We need to gauge in 1996 how much people are interested in stories leading up to the Olympics. But it's quite possible that in those weeks leading up, then the NASCAR could get pushed back a little bit.
So just how is the Atlanta Motor Speedway going to earn column inches? Buying full-page ads doesn't guarantee race coverage.
It's a very competitive market. I'm sure if we send something to the Atlanta Constitution or Journal that there's probably 200 or 250 other items that will appear on the sports desk. So we need to make sure that ours is first class in every way.
The Speedway is exploring every available option to keep their name in front of the local and national media. One possibility is to make the Atlanta Motor Speedway an event site for the '96 Summer Games.
One of the reasons that we're being involved with various groups and so forth is to take the temperature of the situation and see if the opportunity is there for us to participate. If that opportunity is there and it can benefit all involved, then we would want to do it.
In the contest for media coverage between the '96 Summer Olympics and the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the well-financed and aggressively run racetrack should be in medal contention. Reporting for TNN's Motorsports Magazine, I'm Ralph Shaheen.
She may not care that visual perfection took years to develop. She may not care that visual perfection's state-of-the-art technology produces an unsurpassed, deep, rich, brilliant color. Well, maybe she does. Visual perfection from Eagle One, the ultimate auto polish.
If motorcycling has seemed out of reach, maybe you just haven't reached for the right motorcycle. Legendary inline 4 performance is now within your reach. Introducing the Nighthawk 750, only from Honda.
The world's fastest and most exotic Mercedes-Benz comes on Goodyear Eagle radials, and only on Goodyear Eagle radials. Why? Because the engineers at Mercedes-Benz want it that way. And they're another reason why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Pure water is the birthright of every living thing, and it's worth fighting for. Join TNN and your local cable operator in their water conservation project, Pure Water, Pure Country.
I always knew that music and the river were tied together.
And so will you when you watch Banjos, Fiddles, and Riverboats, as written and narrated by John Hartford, Wednesday on TNN.
right, welcome back, everybody. Chuck Bown has won quite a few championships in his life and has had a Winston Cup ride or two in the past, and we're just real glad to have you. Of course, the biggest celebration of all is the 1990 Busch Grand National Championship, and this year so far, though, hasn't been that great. We were just talking about Daytona and a couple of the other races. Been tough on you this year so far.
Well, that's true, Pat. You know, we've gotten off to a slow start, but really it's almost a crawl. But the good news is there's 27 races to go, and I truly think I have a better race team in 1991 than we had last year with the championship. It's basically the same, but a bigger budget, more help in the shop, more race cars. We'll turn it around. We'll get it going.
All right, I got to give one little commercial here before we get away. Don't forget, next weekend right here on TNN, that's next Sunday, we'll have live coverage of the Busch Spring 200 from Volusia, which, of course, Chuck will be racing at that race, and that'll be live here on TNN, 2 p.m. Eastern. That's next Sunday. Talk about Volusia for a second. Talk about short tracks, because obviously that's where we're going, and that's what you guys and the Nescafe team have got to get ready to do. Are you in good shape, car-wise, engine-wise?
I think we're in very good shape. I'm very much looking forward to the race. I think we'll definitely be one of the contenders. We've been there 2 times in the past with the Busch Grand National Division, and I think I've won a pole there once and qualified in the outside pole and finished in the top 5 both times. So it's been a pretty good track for me. But last year we had a few problems there with the conditions, the tire we had, and the fresh sealer on the racetrack made our record cautions, but I don't look for that at all in 1991. I think it'll be Busch Grand National racing on a short track at its best, and which means a very competitive barn burner, I think.
Your team has seemed to come together rather quickly, as opposed to a lot of guys that compete on the Busch Grand National Tour and will go year after year after year without maybe getting 1 or 2 wins, nevertheless winning a championship. Why? How has it happened?
Well, there's a lot of experience there. Even though we're new together, Hubert Hensley started racing, my car owner, back in the late 40s, early 50s, and Jeff Hensley, my crew chief's 28. He's been in the business every day just since he was born, just as I have. My father was a racer. So, you know, together we have a lot of experience, and we all have one common goal. We love to win. We love to run up front. And, you know, we just have some good equipment with Nescafe's support and with Pontiac's support. And we put it together. You know, I'm ready to do some winning. They're ready to do some winning, and we just finally got together with each other. And I think 91 can be another great year for us. I really do.
All right, one quick question now. Do you go into these short track races trying to win the pole? And we got a few seconds left here. Based on the fact that you start up front, you're less likely to get in trouble.
Well, it helps. The bottom line, number one thing, is win the race. But if we can get the pole along with it, we do try to qualify as high up as we can, because it is important, especially in the early going, to stay out of trouble. But if the practice time is limited, and if there's no practice after qualifying, we may spend most of that practice getting set up for 200 laps.
Great. Good luck in Volusia next week. And, of course, we have a lot of Busch Grand National racing here coming up here on TNN. That's all the time we have this week. Join us next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on TNN Motorsports Magazine. We'll have the highlights of today's racing, and we'll preview TNN's coverage of the Busch Grand National race from Barberville, Florida. Chevy Road Racing star Tommy Kendall will be our studio guest, plus we'll have the latest news and much more. I'm Pat Patterson. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Guest of TNN Motorsports Magazine. Stay at the luxurious Charlotte Guest Quarters Suite Hotel. To make every stay extra special, call 1-800-424-2900.